Welcome, Risers. It's that time once again for the Agent Rise podcast. I'm your co-host, Neil Mathwig, joined by Mindy Kesnick. And today we are talking YouTube. This is part 1 of 3 episodes. We're going to be talking about the how-to of YouTube for real estate agents. And Mindy, you're starting to break through on YouTube, and you're starting to see it, aren't you?
I am. I have seen some success. I see the potential. I am excited about it. But it's a lot. And so, I'm learning right along with everybody else, but I definitely believe in it. Recently, somebody asked, what are you doing now to see the most growth? And I'm very confident that my answer in 3 to 6 months will be YouTube.
And here's why we say YouTube has got the potential for growth is because one of the areas that we see growing in this industry is relocation and people relocating across the country. And so there is just this boom and the ability to get in front of those that are doing that through YouTube. And it's all searchable. And here's the thing that we want to, when we talk YouTube 101, we really want to bring up the fact that all of this content is searchable content and not social content, okay? And there is a difference between the two. And the biggest difference between this is understanding that people are going to the computer and they're typing in the information that they're looking for. They're moving to Madison and they need to know the things that before moving to Madison or the pros and cons of living in Madison. And they're searching for these answers, and your video is answering the question. You're the guide, they're the hero of the story, and you're their guide, and they see you as their guide. This is not social media content that's disrupting them, or they're on Facebook scrolling looking for photos of their friends and family, and your video pops up talking about real estate. That's a disruption. This is not disrupting them. This is getting them right where they're looking for the answer, right? And they're searching and you're providing that answer for them.
And I think it can be confusing because if you're an agent who follows Agent Rise and you're working your 3 pillars, it's confusing because YouTube feels like it should be part of your chase pillar, but it's not. It's still part of your attraction pillar as like social media would be, but it's not at all the same as social media. And I know that it took me a long time to wrap my brain around that and look at it as it is part of my attraction pillar, but it's completely different than the rest of my attraction pillar, which is attracting people on social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook. So it is confusing, but I think that's where people need to start, is really understanding the difference. And like you said, we've been talking the last 6 months or so about how the business that we are getting now has changed. We are no longer working with buyers and sellers that want to move because there's just not a lot of people that want to move knowing what they know now, because they're either stuck in, they have this interest rate that's keeping them there, or there's not enough inventory or whatever. If they have a choice, they're probably not moving. So this aligns with what we have been coaching at Agent Rise, which is we need to be pivoting to people that need to move. And some of the people that one of the populations of people that need to be moving are people that are relocating. And that's why YouTube is where it's at right now.
That's it. And they're searching. They're coming to, we're going to talk about Madison, Wisconsin, because that's where we're from. That's where Mindy serves. So, they're coming to Madison, Wisconsin, and they're relocating in, and they need answers, and they're searching for those answers, and they're not going on Facebook for those answers. Maybe they're going to go into Facebook groups and other things like that, but they're going to Google and they're searching for those answers, and your videos are there. And let me elaborate too a little bit on how exactly this works, like the exact scenario. So let's say that there's a gentleman that lives in Indiana and he has got a job offer to move to Madison, Wisconsin. And his job offer, he's going to make $50,000 more a year. However, the cost of living, so he thinks, is much more in Madison than it is where he currently lives in Indiana. So he's thinking, man, if I move to Madison and I get this $50,000 raise, am I just going to spend it all because I live there? Like, is it really worth me moving to Madison? So he goes to Google and says, what's the cost of living in Madison versus where I'm currently living? And he starts to do this research and he reads a couple black and white blog posts, and then he sees this video. And here's Mindy with a big smile on her face and the things that you need to know about living in Madison, the cost of living. And he clicks on that video, and he's watching the one video, and he's realizing that the cost of living really isn't that much different. It's a little bit more, but it's not going to cost him that much more. And then as he's watching this, he's starting to realize Madison's a pretty cool city. Like I not only want to move there, the cost of living wise, but I actually want to live there. This is exciting. And really, the only person that I know in Madison, other than the recruiter trying to recruit me, the only person that I know in Madison is Mindy. And so, and she's cool. Like I like her personality. She seems to know everything about the city. And I'm just going to reach out to Mindy. And then Mindy, when they reach out to you, they're kind of starstruck, aren't they? They can't even believe they're talking to you.
Yeah, and it's really fun because I get this phone call from a complete stranger, but this stranger feels like they know me. Like they feel like we are friends. And part of the reason they feel like we are friends is because I made the mistake early on to like dress up in like a big fancy blazer and kind of pretend like I was this like, very put together, whatever.
Yes,
And
have it
it's
all
just not who I
together.
am. Yeah. And I stopped doing that. And now I show up and I record my videos in like my white t-shirt, cause that's what I wear all the time. And sometimes my hair is done. Sometimes it's not, depends on what the rest of the day brings. And I'm just myself, and I make bloopers and I say silly things and I make jokes, and they feel like they know me and they feel like we're friends because that's who they get on the YouTube video that I'm creating. And so they call, and not only do they feel like we're friends, but they also just trust me. Like they're not, I don't have to convince them to work with me. They're compelled to work with me already because they have been watching what I'm doing. And then, they probably look me up and they probably see my stuff and on my website or whatever. And they're coming to me like, hey, I'm moving to Madison, Wisconsin, and I want to work with you. And
That's
it's amazing.
and here the thing too, like I always kind of get a kick out of this because they we kind of think that it's weird that they're starstruck. I mean, it's like why are they so starstruck? But actually we're kind of the ones that are being weird about it because they they have formed a relationship with us on camera, and they really feel like they know us.
Mhm.
And they should. If we've done a great job of being real and being authentic and having bloopers and making mistakes and just rolling with it, they like that, right? We always say that people can't relate to your perfection, right? So you being imperfect makes you very relatable. And so they see that. And so they have already formed that relationship with you. And so when they meet you, they already feel like they know you. They're not being weird. They're just being normal because they already know you. And it's like, wow, now I'm actually get to meet you. This is great.
Right. And then it's just a matter of asking good questions so that you can catch up because like you said, they already feel like the relationship's there, and now it's our turn to kind of seal that deal and get to know them and hear their, listen to their needs and wants and timelines and all of that.
And Mindy, that is so good too, because that it is so true. Because it is our job to ask the quality questions to just stay with that energy because they're coming to Madison. They feel like they already know us and they're excited about that, and we just got to stay with that.
Yeah, and part of that I think is just knowing that YouTube is going to be a game of nurturing for a lot of people because a lot of people are making plans. It's they're not like, some people are going to be immediate, like, oh my gosh, I just got a job transfer. I need to find housing in the next month. But I had somebody who reached out to me that I worked with for 2 years. They reached out to me 2 years ago and said, hey, we know that we want to move our daughter to the Madison area for the schools before she's in high school. So we're looking at this timeline, and it was 2 years out that I nurtured these people. And so, knowing that that can be the case, but they are real qualified, very wonderful buyers. Like the people that I have worked with that have found me on YouTube have been some of my most loyal, um, most respectful, kind buyers that I've ever worked with. And so just understanding that, like, it's okay. I mean, and I always look at it like, if somebody reaches out to me, I have so many sellers right now. For example, they're like, we want to sell next spring. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love you to sell right now, but I also know I'm going to want sellers next spring. So I always look at it as like, that's okay. Like, I'm going to want to work with you in 2 years from now as well. I'm in it for the long haul, right? So anyways, understanding their timeline and just knowing that this is going to potentially be a really good opportunity for you to nurture clients. So these buyers, I mean, they came to town, I think they came into town twice, and we looked at properties and we sat down and I talked to them about the city and I told them, places to hit up, and kind of was their local tour guide for, just kind of gave them an idea of like, this is a good itinerary for you. Make sure to hit up the farmer's market and whatever. And then they came to town and we had 4 days together. We looked at every house that was in their criteria, in their locations, and they ended up buying a house and they closed, and they are like now lifelong friends because I nurtured them for 2 years and worked with them for another, several days and helped them through their transaction. And so I think you just have to have the right mindset with these folks too, is, knowing the questions to ask and understanding that it very well could be a long game with these people, but they are really amazing qualified buyers that are compelled to work with you, versus like Facebook leads, for example. They may also be a long game, but you have to convince them a lot of times to work with you. So that's the beauty of the YouTube leads.
Yes, the relationship's there before the lead even begins. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And in these episodes, we have a 3-part series coming up here. We really want to show you how to use YouTube as a real estate agent. In the other episodes, we have other how-tos coming up. But one of the things that we want to cover today is what YouTube is not good for and what you should not be putting on YouTube. Or if you do, make sure you frame it in the right framework. And so first example that fits with this one is property tours. I remember when I would get a new listing as an agent, I would put my new listing property tour. We did these nice videos of our tours of our homes, and I would put that on YouTube and say, new listing 123 Main Street. And that should not be going on YouTube. Instead, if you wanted to put a new listing on YouTube, the best way to say it is, what does $599 get you in Madison, Wisconsin? And then it's a tour of what $599,000 gets you in Madison. If you're going to do property tours on YouTube, do that. Do it that way. But and also make sure you stick with the keywords. What does it get you living in Madison, Wisconsin, which again is our keyword.
And this is also not content that you want to spread into your social media. We obviously you've heard, don't be a secret agent. Well, this is an area that you actually do want to be a secret agent. Like, I don't tell anybody that I know about my YouTube channel, because what will happen is they'll be like, oh, I want to see your YouTube video, but they don't actually need the information that you're sharing because they likely already live here or know what it's like to live here or wherever you are. And so they will go onto your YouTube channel and they will click play and they will let it play for maybe 25 or 30 seconds and they'll turn it off. And then that will screw with your algorithm. So you really don't want to ever be like taking a clip from your YouTube channel and sharing it over on your social media. I know it seems like, oh, this would be an exciting thing to share, but it's actually very separate, and you want your YouTube channel to be a secret to your local market.
Yes. Let YouTube algorithm work. Don't influence. You can't add power to omnipotence. Like, just allow this thing to work. And so what you do is you focus on the keywords, living in and moving to, and getting in with that, and letting YouTube algorithm pick that up and let it get it in front of the right people. Don't influence it. Just let YouTube do its thing. And you're right. Like, you got to stay out of social media with this. Like, that's the number one point with this is this is searchable content, not social content, and stay in that lane. Another thing that you want to make sure that you're not doing with your YouTube videos is the how to buy and how to sell real estate. It's too late at that point, guys. If somebody's searching how to get through an inspection, they're most likely they're not searching directly in your market. They're probably live in Nebraska and they're learning about how to sell real estate, right? And they're just searching all over YouTube for it. And second of all, they're not going to call you to help them. They're looking for their answer. It's too late. And that's why the living in and moving to keywords are so beautiful, is because it gets the people that are searching right now before they come to Madison.
Yeah. it seems like, because that's what we're good at and that's what we know, like that's what we want to talk about as real estate agents. But unfortunately, this is not the place to do it. Because, like you said, by the time they're wondering about inspection, they probably already under contract. So you're wanting to get people who are just starting to explore, or maybe just learned or decided that they're making the move and they need a real estate agent.
And like that couple that you've been working with for 2 years, that's normal, right? A lot of
Yeah.
times they have their sight on it, they're moving to it, they're working towards a goal. And then they start a relationship with you, and then you have a great follow-up plan and you stay in
Mm-hmm.
touch with them. And the other great thing too is, as a YouTube content creator as you are, you're constantly making new videos. Those new videos become, they're subscribed to your channel. They're going to see you when you post a new video. You could also email them or message them, say, hey, I just dropped this new video and I think you're going to really like it, right? And it really, you can keep that conversation going because you're a creator. If they have questions and you can answer them, that also makes a great video, right? It kind of goes back to like that part in my life with the podcast. I got to episode number 11 and I ran out of things to say. But then my audience started talking and I started
Mm-hmm.
hearing from my audience, and therefore I had more and more content to produce. So the same thing happens with your YouTube. The people that are commenting on your YouTube videos, that gives you more and more content to produce.
Yeah, those relationships start to become a muse.
Yes.
You can ask them. I've asked them, like, well, what do you wish I would have talked about, or what do you wish you could have learned online? And they've given me some really good ideas for content, because sometimes that's hard too to know what other people are wondering. And so recently I was, wondering, like, wow, what should I do next? I'm feeling uninspired in my YouTube channel, or in my YouTube video content creating. And I thought, well, someday I want to move to Naples, Florida. And what's something that I would want to know? And that's how I came up with my next YouTube video. Is, so sometimes it's hard to know, like, what are people out there wondering? And so you can use these relationships, or the people that are starting to engage with you through your YouTube channel for content ideas.
And that brings up a point too. When I came back to Madison, Wisconsin, after traveling for a year or so, when we came back to visit last time we were back home, I looked at Madison as a tourist, because for the last year and or so, I had gone into every city and not know where I was going, right? As we were RVing, we'd get somewhere and we'd have to discover it. And so I would discover the city differently. And when I came back to Madison, it like gave me a new view of how I would, the information, the content I would have put out there. Because before, the content I was doing on YouTube, and this is one of the knots to do, is to talk about who has Madison's best cheeseburger, and who interview this chef and this business leader, and those kind of interviews just do not work. They're great, they're fun, they're great, but they don't work to get us in front of the right buyers and the sellers. And so this was a wrong. This is something that you don't want to be doing, but it also shows us that to look at the city differently, to look at what they don't need to know where Madison's best cheeseburger is yet right now, right? They need to know, what is an isthmus, and what is the Beltline, and how do the schools work, and when is enrollment, and when is, right? Like, that's the information they need. So we have more and more of this coming up, of the how-tos and the things that you should not be doing. And so we are going to be covering that again in more episodes coming up here. This is a 3-part series. And so make sure you join us for episode number 2, where we're going to start to talk about the steps to creating and how do you begin to get yourself on YouTube as a real estate agent. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a great day. And like always, remember to be the reason somebody smiles today.